Hello? If everybody could take seats, we're going to start in just a couple minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good, how you doing? Glad you could make it.
How are you?
Hi, how are
Hey,
you?
how are you?
Paul?
So I'd like to welcome everybody to our first Commissioners Forum. We are going to do a couple more before the primary comes around. And what I want to do is first thank the commissioners, the current county commissioners that actually have created the live stream. So we are being live taped and streamed. And that way you can see it on YouTube, and it'll be on the county channel. Also, want to thank the Southern Community Center and the media teams that put all this together today for us. They did all the setup, and all I had to do was show up and put up some names. So they did a great job. Also, want to get into what's coming up. So this one is our first one. The next thing we have coming up is May 14th. It's called the Southern Maryland Rally, and that will be, there's a site called southernmarylandrally.com you can go to. Then after that, on June 8th, we have the Sheriff's Forum. It will be here. It will also be live streamed and taped. All of the forums will be that way. That we're doing the rest of the county. We plan on doing mid-county next, and then top of the county in the last forums. And we'll be announcing those shortly. So tonight's process, just so you understand how this is going to work today, we got 12 candidates. So with 12 candidates answering questions, it's going to take 15 minutes or so. So we only maybe get 6 questions in. We can stretch the time to 8:30 if we need, and that's what our goal is. So just wanted to let you know. And then we're going to start off with a 2-minute for each one of them. We're going to start down on the one side, go all the way to the end, and then when we do the first question, we'll start on that end and come back this way. The excuse me, I got my notes. The questions will be asked by me, the moderator, and anybody in the audience that wants to ask a general question, you raise your hand, and we'll hand you a 3x5 card. You can fill it out, ask the question. They're going to have them in the back. They're going to bring them up to me, so you can do that at any time. They're going to be handed out, and then JP will be going through them, organize them, and pass them back to me. And So we're going to get ready. We're starting now, and we'll start off on this end and go in that direction. And they're going to get 2 minutes, and I will turn on a timer so we can keep to 2 minutes. We have to, because of 12 of you, the timing wise, we would never get nothing done. So I'll start off with Mike Hart.
Introduction? Is this just an introduction piece?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
Hi,
2
well,
minutes.
okay. I'm Mike Hart, and currently I'm the District 1 Commissioner. This is my second term. I live right here. Actually went to school right over there at Appeal. Had a business in town for the last 12 years. I have 2 kids, my wife. Had the pleasure of serving here for 8 years, watching a lot of good things in the county, and basically the number one reason I'm running is my son. I believe that parents deserve a choice and a say in their child, how it's taught in school, and how in the context of what it's taught. Not putting down any subjects or any people, but I truly believe that the parents are the number one influence in a child's life. And I believe that. Number 2, I think our way of life is very important. Right now we got a lot of decisions, comprehensive plans, and the growth of this county and the direction it goes. Don't want to see us grow past the capacity that we can handle. And that's all those decisions are coming right now. I think it's very important that we have a lot of public input, how we grow this county, at the pace we grow this county, and we don't outgrow what we can afford to do. Also, we have with the Kerwin report coming, there's a lot of financial decisions. And I'm sure that we'll get into later with some of this stuff, but the Kerwin report's going to be the largest financial piece this county has seen, probably, at least the 8 years I've been here, probably in its history. So that's a little bit about me, and I will be around afterwards, so feel free, please ask me anything. Thank you.
Ladies, gentlemen, I am Patrick Flaherty. And since I was 18, unlike some here who are a name only, I am a Republican with an emphasis on republic. When we took the pledge, we pledged allegiance to the flag, one nation under God, in the republic for which it stands. And in a republic, your rights, freedoms, and liberties are protected. They're cherished. They're defended. What we saw in these past 2 years or so was democracy in action, which is nothing but mob rule. Did Commissioner Hart, an essential business that he has, a liquor store, stand in solidarity with businesses that were shut down and say, I'm going to shut my business down as well? Conversely, did he stand and say, if my business can stay open, I'm going to fight for yours to stay open? No, he did not. Every year or every election cycle, term limits comes to the front. Last election cycle, Commissioner Hart said, if elected for a second term, I will not seek a third term. That is an integrity problem right there. He has no business to be here today if he would be true to his word. That's one reason why I'm running again. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Steve Jones. I am joined by my Aunt Betsy, my mom Eileen Jones, Sue Fisher, my fiance, and my friends and family are here tonight. My name's Steve Jones. I'm the Commissioner, District 1 candidate. I've been a police officer for 33 years. I'm a commander in charge of special operations and Homeland Security. I'm in charge of the critical infrastructures for Calvert County, and I have a great deal of knowledge about those infrastructures. I first want to talk to you about fees. When our children go to schools, we invest about $100,000 in those kids. And when they come back to Calvert County, or they go away to college, they come back to Calvert County, we tell them it's a little too steep for your blood here. We keep increasing the fees, and our children are moving out of Calvert County. I will never vote for anything that will preclude your children from living in this county. Next, I want to talk about the growth. We do something in Calvert County, I like to call it what they say in DC. It's called pay to play. And what that means is if you're willing to spend the money, you can build in this county. And if you're not willing to spend the money, you don't get to stay here. It's as simple as that, just like we discussed. Lastly, I want to talk about the environment. and I want to talk about how we handle news in this county. So we recently heard about a pipeline that was going to go in from Prince Frederick to Solomon's Island. When I heard about that, I was at a planning commission meeting, and it was disclosed at that meeting. It came out during, I stopped the meeting. Ultimately, what happened was there was an attempt to put a moratorium on all growth in Calvert County. What I say to you is I believe that was a scare tactic. I don't believe it was needed, and I think it was a knee-jerk reaction. What I say to you, everyone here, is that, I live close to that sewage facility in Solomons. It was very disheartening. I'm Steve Jones, running for County Commissioner. I greatly appreciate your support. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Gadway, U.S. Coast Guard veteran. Used to work at Verizon, took an early buyout, started a property management company, settled here in Calvert in 1997. My wonderful wife Julie and I, we built the company up. We're small business owners and employees in this county. In 2019, I went to a public hearing where I saw things that I didn't like, and the next morning I realized that I needed to run for county commissioner. I spent the next 2 years working on it, pushing for it. The Republican Central Committee and the state legislatures unanimously nominated me to the governor to fill the remainder of Tim Hutchins' seat. The governor appointed me. I've had the pleasure of working with his fine people in Calvert County for about 8.5 months now. As far as the growth goes, I am against high-density residential development. At no point was there ever the concept of a moratorium that was going to be county-wide. There was the possibility of a discussion on the Prince Frederick sewer system and things that tied into that. So we had to look at what could be handled for wastewater treatment in Prince Frederick. Never a discussion countywide. There will, however, be a discussion tomorrow on a public hearing for the TDR requirements to try and roll back some of the TDR requirements prior to 2015's. I stand here for liberty and education and parental rights. Liberty is defined as the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. That's where I'm coming from. I don't want people to be without liberty in our county. Thank you. Chris Gadway, and I appreciate your vote.
Good evening, all. Thank you for having me and allowing me the opportunity to introduce myself and highlight my platform. For those who do not know me, I'm Mark Cox, Republican candidate for County Commissioner, District 2. I'm a lifelong resident of Calvert County, born and raised. I've been married for 33 years, my wife, and I have 2 wonderful children, 3 grandchildren, and 1 on the way. Business owner for 40 years. Although I could spend this time talking about my life growing up in Calvert, that's not why I'm here. I'd like to take this opportunity to assure you that if I'm elected, I'm committed to you, raising the bar on public safety, including mental health, working with the Board of Education to improve our school system and advocate transparency, working to maintain Calvert's rural roots, focusing on smart growth. We need to keep Calvert a place folks want to call home. I would greatly appreciate your support and your vote in July. If elected, I look forward to serving all the citizens of Calvert County. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Kelly McConkey. I'm running for re-election for District 3. I moved here to Calvert County about 22 years ago. I wasn't born and raised here like my friend Mark, but I got here as fast as I could. When I got here, I got involved in the community. As soon as I got here, I served on the United Way Board. I served as the past president of the Optimist Club. I ran for the school board and won. As soon as I got on the school board, I went to work right away and uncovered the superintendent and many high officials spending money inappropriately, resulting in many of them resigning. Also, when I got there, our teachers and staff were 5 steps behind. Worked with the county commissioners and the school board, got a funding formula put in place, and now everybody in public school system is caught up with their steps. When I won county commissioner, as soon as I got there, the county employees were 3 steps behind. And thankful to working with my board now, we have them all caught up, and we also are getting them 17% pay parity, so they're in line with the surrounding counties. Law enforcement. I've never voted against law enforcement. I support our law enforcement, all of our first responders, whatever they need. When they come to me and tell me they need something, I'm with them, because we live in one of the safest counties in the nation. Land preservation. We have 1,410 acres have been preserved through rural legacy. TDRs allocated to development and preserved through PAR funding since 2018. We now have 32,000 acres preserved in Calvert County. That's really a good thing. The Bay Bridge, when they talked about running a Bay Bridge through Calvert County, I voted against that.
Kelly?
Huh?
2 minutes.
Is it up?
Yep.
Oh, that was nice.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Grasso. I have lived in Calvert County for 47 years. I've been very involved in the community and Republican politics. I was president of the Republican Women Leaders of Calvert. I led our central committee for over 3 years. I've been on the hospital ball committee, but now on to the commissioner's race. I bet many of you don't know that in Calvert County government, we have a mission statement. This mission statement is a mission statement that all employees adhere to, as well as the county commissioners. I'd like to read it to you. Be responsible and accountable to all citizens of Calvert County. Provide high-quality, effective, and efficient services. Preserve Calvert County's environment, heritage, and rural character. Foster opportunities for responsible and sustainable residential growth and economic development, and support Calvert County's essential institutions and keep them strong. As you can see, we work for you, not for special interests, for you, the citizens of Calvert County. I will promise you that I will adhere to this mission statement and work for all citizens of Calvert County. I live by 2 words: integrity matters. I'd appreciate your vote in July. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Todd Ireland, and I'm a lifetime resident of Calvert County. I've spent most of my life living on my family's farm on Wilson Road in Huntingtown. I spent the last 28 years serving the citizens of Calvert County as a correctional officer and as a deputy sheriff. During that time frame, I was able to attend numerous law enforcement trainings and leadership schools, which led me to ultimately receive numerous awards, citations, and proclamations. I retired as a captain from the sheriff's office in December of 21. I had an extremely rewarding career. It was an honor to have served the citizens of Calvert County in that capacity, and I enjoyed the challenge of helping people solve their problems, no matter how small or complex their problems may have been. I had an extremely rewarding career with the sheriff's office, and I'm looking forward to continuing my service to our community as your next county commissioner. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Can we go back to Terzansky? Because he's running.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
Sorry
see
about that.
you.
Came in late. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
oh, okay.
Introduce yourself and say what
You got 2 minutes, buddy.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Evan Terzansky. I'm running for Calvert County District 3 Commissioner. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I have an infant, and we were waiting for a babysitter to arrive, so I really apologize for that one. Oh, did my mic just get out? But as far as my history, so I grew up on the East Coast, was a Eagle Scout. I volunteered for my community regularly. I was also a district representative for the Junior Lions Club as a child, and then as a teenager, and then I became the state representative for the Lions Club from various volunteering. So essentially, going from there, I had a car accident, unfortunately. And when I had this car accident, I was in a coma, and after recovering from the coma, I actually went to become an Eagle Scout, and I did so with a C-spine, with my C6 being broken and fractured. I actually finished and got my Eagle Scout while I was training to be an EMTB at the time for the local fire department. Upon doing so, I joined the military after a very strenuous process because of my medical history. Unfortunately, it took years for me to get into the military because I had to see many neurologists. After getting into the military, I served for 6 years, and upon getting out of the military, I have been a top secret consultant for the Fed. So my work for the Fed includes working for the Executive Office of the President of the United States. And I've worked for various agencies, including DOJ, DOD, DOED, and I've consulted for many of them on various projects. What I'm hoping to do for the community is raise safety. So when me and my wife, Tolu Trzanski, when we, can you stand up and wave on? Hey, babe. When you guys, when we moved here, the one thing I noticed we didn't have in the community was safety. So there was a lack of sidewalks, so that's what I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to bring safety to the community as your next commissioner. Thank you.
Now you can go.
Good. That's great. I'm Myra Gowans, and I'm running for office because we have a definite problem down here in the county. It's going to be expanded, and it's going to be out of control. We, the citizens, were not able to have our voices heard in the comprehensive plan. It's going to be costly. It's going to be critical for our families, our security, and our lifestyle down here. And it's also going to impact and affect our Bay and River. We are the sixth smallest county in the United States and the smallest county in Maryland. We live in a very, very sensitive area. I'm the founder of Calvert Citizens United, and I'm going to tell you that in this book are 100 pages of backroom meeting minutes that happened while the citizens were at work. The hardworking citizens were hard at work, and our builders, developers, and our administration basically allowed the county to be grown out exponentially. They intend to put commercial on the bottom and high-rises, condos on the top. And I believe that this is the time that we need to stand up for the county, for our citizens, for our children, and our children's children. I have the ability and the knowledge to be able to redirect everything that has been approved and redirect it so that we can bring some sense back into the development of our smallest county. We are now in the Court of Appeals. That's the Supreme Court of Maryland. And it may be that we will finally have a hearing that says the comprehensive plan was illegally approved. And if that is the case, we'll be able to work together and recharge our county and take back our county. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Harrison. There's a lot about me at paulforcalvert.info. paulforcalvert.info. I want to go into all the details of my biography. But my entree into public service was I started by tutoring inner city youth before I moved here. I grew up in Bowie. I came here with my wife in 2002. In fact, we settled on our house on April 29th, the day after the tornado that went across the 231 bridge into La Plata. Pretty crazy. They wouldn't do our closing because they wanted to make sure the house was still intact before they signed off on the insurance. State Farm, they're smart. So I have, there's so many people here that they're good people, and they bring a diverse background here. They're giving their time, they're taking time away from their families. I don't want to disparage anyone here, okay? And if someone else does, that's their deal, okay? Everybody up here is trying to do what they think is going to make Calvert better. I bring a beautiful wife who is really the foundation of the family behind me. She's awesome, okay? She's not here, she's working. She's working in our hair salon. It's not my hair salon, it's our hair salon. As much as I have nothing to do with it, it's hers, okay? I am a accounting and finance professional. I've been doing that for 30 years, over 30 years. I see some stuff here. I think we've got to do better, okay? Many times in the private sector, the answer is no. If you want something, you want to buy something for your office, no, we don't have the money. Here, yeah, sure, have it, whatever. That's government, okay? I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying when they say yes in the commissioner's room, that's not their money, that's your money. That's my money, okay? I'm not a candidate, I'm not a commissioner yet. So it's so far been my money. So I think if you go to paulforcalvert.info, you can read about my platform, but I think we have to do a better job of managing money, and that's what I've done my whole career. Thank you very much.
So good evening, everybody. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight to participate in this forum because it helps all of us as much as it helps you. My name is Buddy Hance. I live in Port Republic where I farm. The farm I'm on, my great-grandfather bought in 1905. I'm the fourth generation to farm that property. I was an active member of the Prince Rupert Volunteer Fire Department for 31 years before I retired. So I am currently on the Board of County Commissioners. I serve as president as an at-large, and I'm seeking re-election. So my mission when I first ran 4 years ago was to protect the rural character of Calvert County and protect the quality of life that we all enjoy. My family has been in this county for hundreds of years, and for those of you that moved here, we have stayed here for that same quality of life that you all seek, and I saw it slipping away. I hope that in Mrs. Gowan's book, there's no dates since I've been elected. I did vote against the comprehensive plan because I didn't approve of the town center expansions, just didn't like where that was going. Calvert County is a very unique place, and we have to make sure that we protect it, and we can't allow expansion. Commissioner Gadway mentioned there's a public hearing Thursday night. There are 3 text amendments. You should participate in those. You can Zoom, come in person, 7 o'clock at the HEB. Those are all 3 growth issues to control growth that this board's trying to do. So we need to get that word out. Just if you look at my votes, you'll see that I have stood behind everything I said 4 years ago. I voted against the first budget when I was in there because I didn't like the budget. As Mr. Harrison says, there are items in there that I didn't agree with. So I vote no all the time. In fact, the first 3 years, I think they called me Mr. No, because not only can I say it, I can spell it. And Mr. Harrison is exactly right. You know, this county, if you look at some of the issues facing us, financially, it's not a pretty picture. We're not in trouble, but there are actions we're going to have to take to maintain the financial stability of this county and make sure that we don't raise your taxes. Our job is to make sure that we spend your money just like I spend my own. I would appreciate your vote, and thank you for coming out.
I appreciate that endorsement, by the way.
People have some questions they want to write down on cards or anything? Yep. So I got a question. The first question is, will you restrict development until the required infrastructure is in place and fully operational, and who pays for the infrastructure? And we're going to start at that end. And everybody gets 1 minute. This is a quicker, so we can get at least 6 questions every 15 minutes.
Good. So the other night I was at a forum where we talked about growth, and that night I said, people are going to tell you that the growth rate in Calvert County for the last decade has only been 0.4%, and that we shouldn't worry about growth. The issue is that In that decade, we only grew by 4.4%, but we're 2 decades or 3 decades behind in infrastructure. And those infrastructure costs are expensive and we can't afford it. What I have learned in my last 3 years is most growth costs, it doesn't pay. And we're still trying to catch up with those infrastructure concerns that happened years ago when we were growing so fast and we didn't keep up. And my job is to make sure that we don't outgrow the infrastructure that we've already are bulging. Thank you.
So I'm going to tell you this, you're going to hear different statistics tonight. Prince Frederick is growing big, okay? 1,000-unit apartment buildings make the growth rates go up pretty fast, okay? Overall, Calvert County, no, because essentially a single-family building is slowing, okay? I had a conversation with Rodney Gertz, Quality Built Homes. He's getting out of business because it's just too hard. It's too expensive to build here, okay? The issue in Prince Frederick, we have a septic plant that is built years ago and is 70s technology. They'll tell you it's only at 71% capacity. Okay, whatever the pumps can do, that's great. But in the wet season, the effluent can't get in the ground. Mark Cox can speak to this more specifically. But a lot of times, if you're given a permit for 80% capacity and your stuff isn't sinking into the ground at 71% capacity, then it might be giving you a warning sign. So I think we need to pare back on the high density development because we just don't have the infrastructure to handle it. Thank you.
There's two things you need to think about and consider. First of all, the comprehensive plan and the master plan, which is being worked on right this very minute in Prince Frederick and the duplicating it up in Dunkirk. There is no sewer and water available for this massive build-out that they intend to bring to the county. That's number one. Number two is, until recently, it was going to be 14 to 24 residences on 1 acre in Calvert County, Maryland, in Prince Frederick. 14 to 24 residences on 1 acre. That means they're putting in commercial on the bottom and high-rise development on top. Not only will that ruin the ability of our roads to handle the traffic, it will start a new market value, and we won't be able to finish up, and we won't be able to live here. Thanks kindly.
First and foremost, I'm on the backside of knee surgery. I apologize for not standing. That's the hardest thing on my knee at this point. However, the infrastructure definitely has to, be looked at. Our roadways need to be able to keep up with what's going on. We have a sewer issue, and there's going to have to be some land acquisition somewhere down the road in order to be able to sustain the sewer from the current building that's going on. I actually sat in the county commissioners meeting yesterday, and this was discussed thoroughly with the pipeline versus other options. And in the last 2 weeks, the county's done a tremendous job coming up with other alternatives to ensure that pipeline doesn't have to come into place right now. The next 4 to 6 years will be crucial. However, steps have to be taken now to prepare for that growth, particularly on the sewer side of things, so that it can be completed and in place when we run into issues with MDE.
We are in phase 1 of Prince Frederick grow out, and already we have a sewer problem. That's unbelievable. I'm requesting a pause on growth, period. I'm also requesting that we step back, look at our budget, look at what we can absorb in Calvert County, and I recommend that we proceed, when we proceed, strategically. Thank you.
How's it going, everybody? I hope you can still hear me. A little bit of congestion, but I also agree with the majority of the majority of the individuals here, the constituents. I believe that currently we need to pause on growth. We need to work on actually building what we have here in the community. We don't have sidewalks, we don't have crosswalks, we don't have service lanes, we don't have basic necessities on what we already have. This is what we need to focus in on instead of looking at adding high rises to the community. I think we need to make it safer in Calvert, and that needs to be the first thing we need to worry about before we look at other growth. Thank you.
Currently, the commissioners are working on a text amendment that is going to reduce the units from 24 to 14. That's going in place very soon. There won't be a sewer line going from Prince Frederick to Solomons. It's not going to happen. We don't have a failing sewer system. It was at 67% 6 years ago. Today, it's at 68%. By law, you have to put a plan in place when it reaches 80%. We're probably 10 to 12 years away from reaching the 80% mark. So the county is way ahead of the game to make plans to have something done right in the local area of Prince Frederick. So, like I said, it took 6 years to go up 1%. This board has not built anything in this county in the 4 years that we've been in there. Everything that's been built, residentially or anything, has been that zoning since the 1986 range. And if somebody owns a piece of property and they have all the rights to go before the planning commission approves it, not the county commissioners. So we don't have a right to stop somebody from building. The only thing we've built is firehouses, parks, and things for the community. Thank you.
We need smart growth in keeping our rural roots in place. We have an adequate facility plan ordinance that looks at our roads, schools, sewers, and water. So get back to the sewer line. We have a study going on now that was started in 2017, and that's in progress right now. We need to work with our consultants in our water and sewer department to listen, learn, and respond to our sewer challenges. Something else on the sewer side that I want to make a note of, there's a lot of citizens in Calvert County that's on holding tanks. We need to look at this and find new technology and new ways to help these citizens out. Thank you.
Good evening. Short answer, yes. I will work on restricting development until proper infrastructure is in place. Who pays for it? The people that are going to have to be moving into those houses are ultimately they're the users of the system if they're using the sewer. That's how an enterprise system works. We currently have less than 1,200 equivalent dwelling units left in the Prince Frederick sewer capacity. The current adequate facilities that we have in this county that would allow us to apply any type of moratorium only applies, to the best of my knowledge, schools and roads. It doesn't have anything to do with sewer. That's one of the things that I'm looking at trying to implement soon. Right now, 1% of sewer capacity is 37 homes, 37.5, according to the most recent math that I could come up with. So that 29% is going to go fast.
Folks, I don't think anyone on the current BOCC or the Planning Commission will disagree with this. The Planning Commission years ago asked for a traffic study, and to use an analogy, we asked for a Cadillac and we got a Yugo. I hope I haven't offended anybody that has a Yugo. But we didn't get exactly what we wanted, and I think it's expensive. And I do believe that we need to invest in our roadways. I don't know that growth is the biggest problem. I think everybody sat in traffic on Route 4, and I find that to be the biggest problem. The sewer system. We keep talking about Prince Frederick. Our sewer system is collapsing from Dunkirk to Solomons. Okay, we need to get sewer systems looked at all over Calvert County and not just in Prince Frederick or just not in Solomons. There's a problem everywhere. And one of the other candidates stated, the bottom line is, we have to do something to help these folks that have holding tanks. They are spending $300 a month. Their property values are decreasing, and we need to do something to help them. Thank you.
Seems like the planners forgot the 5 Ps. Prior planning prevents poor performance. Before you build anything, you need a proper foundation. Infrastructure should always come first. And who pays for it? Who profits from it? A ratio can be developed to where developers put in, the state puts in if it's coastal to a state road, the county can contribute, and that's how it's paid for. But also adding to that, I would like to try and figure out how to way to get a moratorium from the nuclear power plant south and stop all construction, period, until we get a new bridge, because that bridge was originally built as an emergency exodus in case of an accident at the nuclear plant. Right now, if there was one, considering the growth from the 70s to now, people would be hard pressed to get out of the area in a case of emergency. Thank you.
Well, the simple answer is we can't afford it. Been part of the budget process for 7 years, and it's bigger than just septics. We all know the septics are failing from the south end of this county to the north end. Look at classroom sizes. These teachers got 25 kids plus. All that comes from growth we're not prepared for. We don't have the infrastructure in place. It's obvious. Everybody has seen that. We added 9 officers last year. We can't afford it. You know, there's the expression of putting the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse. Well, that's what's happened. We can't afford it. We don't have the proper information, as Steve Jones just said. It's an accurate statement. We don't have the proper information. That's why none of this has worked. But we're working on that now, getting the proper. A traffic study used to be take a 24-hour period, and take the amount of cars and you divide it by 24 hours. We know we're a bedroom community. People travel 5 in the morning, 8 o'clock, 4 in the afternoon until 7. That's the math that needs to be done, not just this 24. It's been like that, and that's why I asked for a moratorium 2 weeks ago, and that's what I'm still presently working on. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start down this end and go that way. And so how will you ensure our tax dollars will be spent on achieving academic excellence and not indoctrinating our children or meeting the next media and liberal decided mission?
So I mentioned the Kerwin report earlier. No one's going to like this, but the Kerwin report's going to tell you what you're going to spend. It's going to be a state requirement of what you're going to spend per pupil, per teacher. You're not going to be able to touch that. Now, what's going to be very important is our BOE makeup, because our BOE makeup has to do with policy. Back to what I said earlier, it's important. Mom and dad are the very most important people in your children's life. When it comes to sexuality and and anything like that, religion, that's mom and dad's job. I grew up in a time where mom and dad, were the teachers of this. Not some government official, not somebody sitting in Annapolis that scripts on a piece of paper what they feel as their constituents want. No, mom and dad. Like I said, my child is going into 8th grade. I'm a product of this school system. And my teachers weren't teaching me that stuff. My mom and dad did. My pastor did. My neighbors, friends, people that were in our family. That's who brought those values to me. Not a school system, not the people at 1600, but the people in our family.
I think if you want to affect change in the school system, you have to limit the funding. And by that I mean funding at the state mandated maintenance of effort. Anything above that the school system needs, they can come and make their argument to the board. But by giving them everything above and beyond for these past years, every year, we dig ourselves a hole we can never go back. So when they want something else, how do we fund that? We already gave you well and above the maintenance of effort, and you want more and more and more, but they're not listening to the parents. You know, I would say homeschool. Let me send a message that way. Restrict their funding. If you homeschool, you take the child out of the school, they get less funding from the state and from the county. It's a ratio they get. So, or parochial school. Or you can also petition to change the curriculum. They don't like people who fight and stand to change the curriculum. You know, you don't use the name callings or wokeness or anything like that. Just argue your case.
You know, when I look at this, it seems to me that this is a Republican forum. We, the Republican people, allowed ourselves to be put in this position. We were asleep at the driver's seat. There is a very simple solution to this. It's called an election. That's what we're having coming up. And if there's people that aren't in there that we can't get along with, then we need to change that. We need to make a difference in that. You know, I feel like there needs to be more dialogue, and we need to take each other to perhaps a fine dining establishment, like perhaps the leadership on our end and the leadership of the BOE go to Applebee's and sit down and break bread and have a conversation. It seems like when both sides are getting in front of the microphone, it's an opportunity to try to make the other look bad. Folks, we can do better than that. And quite frankly, I know there's some cheerleaders behind both sides, but I think the majority of people are sitting at home and saying, take care of our kids and quit the damn fighting. Lastly, you know, I feel like this. I feel like maybe we can learn something from the kids, and sometimes I almost feel like the BOE and the BOCC should go to the classroom and let the kids sit in the boardroom. Thank you.
I am the only one on the current Board of County Commissioners that's voted no against school board funding. I voted no on it because the specific item was to only allow one race and one gender to attend a particular class. We as the citizens vote for the Board of Ed. We need to make sure that we have the people in the Board of Ed. Where we are right now is going to take 2 cycles of elections in order to get the Board of Ed, some of the people that are making some of the decisions on the Board of Ed out. We have invited the Board of Ed, the county commissioners have invited the Board of Ed multiple times to participate in meetings. They've refused to participate in the meetings. They've announced meetings without our knowledge. We have tried to reach out to them. We have reached out to them. We've sat in on their meetings twice in order to work with them. We are required under state law to give them certain funding. I'm opposed to anything beyond that.
I'm a strong advocate for transparency in our schools for all stakeholders, the board, administrators, teachers, support staff, and the parents. We need to invest in the CTA. There's kids there that finish that program and are dropped and do not go to work. We need to raise the bar on education and not lower the bar. We need continuity between the 2 boards, which we do not have. I have reached out to Dr. Townsell to try to set up a meeting. I would like to know his goals and see how the current Board of Ed is going to hold him accountable. Thank you.
With my experience of 6 years on the Board of Ed, I know the funding that is needed and the challenges that the Board of Ed face. Today, standing here, I can pick up the phone and call any one of the board members and have a conversation about anything with them. It's a shame that a bunch of politicians are holding our kids hostage and not funding the schools properly because they can't agree on something. So I have a problem with that. I will not put I'm putting our kids first, and then that's how it goes with me. You know, we have meetings with them, and we just currently gave them $6.6 million over the MOE that was required, and they have good legitimate concerns for that funding that's needed. So, like I said, I support the kids. People need to stop, take a breath, and say, "This is for the kids. You're a bunch of grown-ups. Do the right thing."
So as a father, this specifically affects me, father of 2, but I'm also an uncle. So when they told me that they were requiring my nieces to wear masks, but they were not medically approved masks at the local elementary school, I was shocked. So that was, in my opinion, a complete waste of time. Why are you going to force them to wear masks that are not medically it just doesn't make any sense to me personally, and that really hurt me when I found out about that. I mean, a piece of cotton does not do the same thing as medically approved masks, so it made no sense to me. This was a waste of our funds, our taxpayer dollars. So I personally believe there needs to be accountability there on where the spending is going. If you're going to spend our money, we need to see the accountability. I was a medical logistician for 6 years in the military. This is simple accountability. And I think that's something we need to do. We need to hold them accountable. What are you spending our money on? Thank you.
We fought for years on the Central Committee to get Republican candidates to run for school board. Crickets. It wasn't until the pandemic that people really saw what was going on in our school system, and we've rallied a great group together that is running for the Board of Education. We need to get back to basics. We need to have transparency within our school system. These are our children. These are our grandchildren. We have rights to question. We have rights to want what is best for our children and to talk against or to give our opinions on what is being taught that perhaps may be to counter to our value system. Our value systems need to be respected. These are our children.
Currently, the Board of Education dictates the curriculum, all these issues, and determines their own budget without any input. One of my key points is to try to forge a relationship with the Board of Education so that there is transparency and so that there is input, not only from the Board of County Commissioners, but also from the parents. I've met a lot of great candidates during my campaign that are running for the Board of Education seats. It's going to take 2 cycles probably to turn things around, as some others have said. I agree with raising the bar and also having an 11th grader at Huntingtown High School. And some of the stories that you hear going on in school are just, it's crazy. I mean, if that went on when we were in school, you wouldn't be in school. So, but we definitely need to make some changes as far as that goes. Thank you.
I was at a meeting with the county commissioners, and Dr. Curry walked in and asked for $8 million for the Kerwin program that was coming online. This was in January. And I do believe it was Mike Hart who said, well, do we get a seat at the table? And he said, no, you do not get a seat at the table. And it was, oh, okay, why not? Because it's not in the plan. So here's what also happens in the State Board of Education and in the County Board of Education. They do not, you pay more for each student because what they do is they say we have X amount of students, but we're going to add a 10% number or a 7.5 number to that. So you're actually funding more children than they actually have. The teachers are the same thing. I actually taught I teach at the college, but I actually was teaching at the regular school, and it's out of order. I think we should bring back parent-teacher association meetings.
All that extra money that they're spending on education, the extra money that was just mentioned, the class size stays the same. I heard the superintendent say that on 420. Okay? 420 was probably for a reason, because that guy's, thank you, he's gone. So listen to me carefully. I'm going to say this twice. There is no correlation to spending and improved performance outcomes for students. There is no correlation to spending and improved outcomes for students. We've spent 60% more over the last 10 years, and the schools are worse today. Okay? I have 3 kids that are all coming up through county schools, public schools, and I spent every day re-educating them from what they learned. Okay? Reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's what needs to be taught in schools, not climate change, and we don't need advocacy. Don't tell me, I don't want to know who my teacher sleeps with. I don't care. I don't want to know who they vote for. I don't care. I just want people to do their job, and not the job of the not the job of the Democrats. All right, thank you.
So as has already been stated, the Board of Education's elected body. We have no control over policies and the things that they do. People have said withhold their money. I will not withhold their money and hurt students. We've tried to have a discussion with them about their budget. They won't talk about it. They won't. You saw it on camera a week ago. They won't even talk about it. So when we met Tuesday to talk about their budget, I said, I'll give you $7 million, which will cover teachers, bus contractors, and the new positions that they asked for. And all the other, we'll just have to figure out. And we finally settled on 6.6. And Dr. Curry said at that time, don't worry, we'll take care of the rest. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've spent my life working legislative issues with numerous organizations. I've never had anything like this Board of Education situation in front of me before. I've always prided myself on being able to work with anybody, but this is the most challenge I've ever faced in my life. This board is just...
We need a better county attorney. Okay?
Okay, so the next question I have is, how will the county sustain itself and keep taxes the same or lower? How will the county sustain itself and keep taxes the same or lower? And that starts at that end.
Oh.
It's yours, bud.
I don't know. I'm being perfectly honest. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever told me our budget is $330-some million, if you ever told me that wasn't enough money to run Calvert County government, I would have laughed at you. But that's where we are today. If it wasn't for Exelon and Dominion, your taxes would be out of sight. They provide almost a third of total revenues for Calvert County. And it's, I told you, it's growth. This growth cost, it doesn't make money. And we can't attract big businesses to Calvert County because of where we're located, the demographics, we're just off the trail. So we have to rely on small business. Small business is our bread and butter. And it's a challenge. Honestly, I wish I had the answer. Thank you.
The county fought my small business. Read the story. Okay? If Dominion and Exelon are covering a third, you know who's covering the 2/3? You. So who gets the biggest seat at the table? You understand that? Have you ever heard of the constant yield formula? So when your assessments go up, the county has the option to keep taxes the same by lowering the rate. The county for years covered development and covered all the stuff that they needed to handle all the people because all the subdivisions, every subdivision, every house that came online, that was new taxes, a new tax stream, same rate, same assessment. When you have a farm, you have a agricultural exemption. When you live in a subdivision, you are not exempted. You pay that full road tax. I pay $6,000 of tax a year. And it has to be paid whether I get my pay cut like it has been or not. It is possible to do it without raising taxes, trust me.
The only way we cannot have to raise the taxes is to reassess this comprehensive plan and the master plans. The master plans actually want to bring some big box stores into the county, and what they will do is they'll get tax breaks. And you cannot have that with these stores coming in because that puts the burden on the small business, which is our local business. Also, there is no possible way to say that your taxes are going to be, yes, we're going to lower taxes, but they change the mill rate. It's the mill rate that establishes our taxes, and that mill rate goes up. When they need money, they change the mill rate, and that's the important thing. We have to be conscious of what we're doing with this egregious build-out in the county. Our small business can't compete with big box stores.
At the end of the day, we have to be fiscally responsible. I'm a taxpayer in this county as well, and I don't want to have to raise taxes. That would be the last thing I would want to have to do. However, without having the numbers in front of me and being able to see our income to the county government from large, big business, what income tax is, what property tax is, I really can't make that decision right now as to where the money would come from in order to keep the taxes down. But I can tell you, it would be the last thing that I would want to do.
I agree. I don't know how I could make a statement on whether or not to raise taxes. I need to see the budget. I know that this high-density building that we have in the county doesn't do much for our bottom line at all. Do these people have skin in the game? I don't see it. And also, we have Kerwin coming down the pike. Kerwin's going to cost each of us a hefty amount of money. So I would have to really crunch the numbers, take a look at it, see where we might be able to cut some money. I will tell you, I have a budgetary background. I've managed my agency's budget for 5 years. At any given time, Congress will say, cut it 3%, and then you go back to the drawing board. So I'm capable of doing that. I would welcome that, but I'm not going to sit here and say to you, oh, no, I won't raise your taxes, or, you know, yes, I will. I'd have to really see the facts and figures. Thank you.
And I have to agree with my fellow constituents who are also not currently commissioners. I haven't seen the budget. I wish I could see the budget so I can make an honest opinion towards this. However, Ms. Myra mentioned that there are currently tax breaks for large companies that are coming in. I noticed, and I'm sure other people here noticed, there's a lot of building happening in Frederick right now, especially in front of our local small chain, our little local businesses that are, just for example, there's a Popeyes coming in right between two other industries, and one of them happens to be a locally owned chicken store. And I'm just wondering if that chain restaurant received any tax breaks. Meanwhile, the local store has to put in extra effort, and they're sitting there and they're really trying just to make ends meet. Meanwhile, there's a Popeyes going to be put right in front of them. So I'm personally just wondering what kind of breaks they may or may not have got, and I would love to see that. But yeah, I honestly can't tell you whether or not I'm going to be raising taxes. I wish I could tell you. I want to see the budget. Thank you.
4 years ago when I ran, I said I wouldn't raise your taxes. Not only did we not raise them, this board lowered your tax rate 2 years in a row. We can't control what the state assesses your property at. We have no control over that. There's no big box stores coming. They don't get any tax breaks. Last year, in order to not raise your taxes, we cut all of our departments by 3%. So we cut everything across the board. In my next 4 years, I won't raise your taxes. I'm saying it to you again. I won't raise them. I will do cuts like we did before to keep your taxes down with the same quality of life. Thank you.
I too will advocate no new taxes. I think we need to look at our two biggest taxpayers, Dominion Gas and Constellation. I'm not sure when the negotiations come back up, FY23 or whatever, but we need to look at them too and renegotiate the two contracts with them. Thank you.
I'd like to clarify one item on the last question. $6.6 million was not paid over MOE to the Board of Ed. MOE was $3.4 million. The total payment to them was $6.6. The overage over maintenance of effort was $3.2. To the best of my knowledge, those are the numbers I recall from yesterday, day before. How will the county sustain itself and keep taxes the same or lower? I'm going to say the exact same thing as my distinguished colleague, Mr. Hance. I don't know. I know that high-density residential development, each one of the units that's in one of those big complexes, costs our county other taxpayers up to $2,500 in their taxes in order to fund the public services by the people that live in those units. I would like to see a push for light industrial, light manufacturing in the county. I have a friend of mine who's a welder, welds right there in Owens. He never even has to leave the county except one day a week to go downtown and install his work. That'd keep more money local. Thank you.
Folks, you know, what I propose is that we keep taxes flat. I heard some of my colleagues say that they can't tell you, and I appreciate their honesty, whether they will raise or not raise taxes. What I'm going to tell you is I'm not going to raise your taxes. Now, that might hurt. We might have to do something about that. The Berkshire, you refer to it as Dominion, but the Berkshire facility and the nuclear power plant, You know, $22 million, I believe this year is the last payment of the $22 million. As Jerry Clark called it, that's just because money, right? They paid it to us. They agreed it was part of their contract to be there. I say we need to be fiscally responsible. I also heard that no big companies want to come here. I'm here to tell you we have done everything we can do to run big companies out of here. If you talk to businesses, they feel like it's not business friendly here for bigger companies. Now, what I say is I kind of understand that. I am a big mom and pop person. I support local business and the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
There's a lot in that question. Everybody lately had to institute austeric measures within their own families because of the highly expanded inflation rate, the expansion of the money supply. They've had to tighten their belts, all right? They'd had to live well within their means. The government, not so much. It doesn't affect them. You know, they just raise taxes. So here's an idea. Right, let's shelve all the future CIP projects, right, until at such times as the markets and inflation calms down, all right? We can lower taxes that way. And there's a whole bunch of other ways. But spending, it's always spending. It never goes down, it always goes up. They always find, staff always find something to add to bring up, add more employees. But they never account for the people who are actually paying for these upgrades.
Well, I can't answer that in 1 minute, so I'll be quick. So I've been part of 7 budgets. When I first got here, we had an $8 million shortfall every year. Taxes were increased enough to offset that. I did not have the guts to raise taxes, and it was my first budget. No way was I going to touch that. The 3 commissioners did. They leveled it off. We got the Dominion check. We took that Dominion check, and we put it into the OPEB account, other post-employee benefits. That's an account that is required by law that must be put in. Other jurisdictions weren't touching it. We put it in, and we did so much. We were so successful. There is 2 generations worth of money in that account. We're able now not to have to put in the same contribution that other jurisdictions are. We've been using that money to help facilitate other things. 2, we cannot expand our growth over top of infrastructure. In the 90s, we were building a school almost every year. Now we're either replacing it, HVA systems are all coming due at the same time. We cannot add to that. I can't sum this all up in a minute, but I will tell you, Commissioner Hans, Gadway, somebody said we lowered it by 3%. Yes, we have. Oh, sorry.
So the next question is going to follow suit with what we've been talking about. So what is your plan to fill the current empty stores that are in all the town centers? There's an issue with small businesses getting licensing.
So I can speak to that. I'm in a shopping center that has people moving out. The biggest thing when I talk to small business people, now I've had mine for 12 years, they actually can't afford the rent that's in those places. It's easy to point the finger, health department, government. Yes, in every jurisdiction you're going to have new things coming down the pipe, but the biggest thing that they run into, they can't afford the rent, they can't afford Maryland's minimum wage. Now, a lot of people don't agree with that, but I'm telling you, when a man pays $15 an hour, it's not $15 an hour, it's $15 an hour, plus their social, plus their unemployment benefits, there's a whole lot more to that. That adds the cost right there on that. There's a reason McDonald's closed for 30 days to put those kiosks in. McDonald's now, how big an employer are they? They knew they could not afford that rate coming, especially when Delaware does not have that, Virginia doesn't have that. Their minimum wage, I believe, their federal minimum wage is like $7.35. Ours within 2 years will be $15 an hour. It's $30,100, $200 a year, not including what else the employer does. So even though those other things are a factor, bottom line is the people that are making it and are staying there are running it themselves. They're working it the 7 days a week. They cannot afford the labor. They can't afford the taxes that come in on the other goods that's coming into the state to pay for that. It's all cause and effect. Go buy a pack of cigarettes in Virginia. Go buy it in Maryland. See what the taxes are. Delaware has a 0% sales tax. Try being that Maryland businessman competing against that guy.
It's hard to pinpoint a local solution to this, what is an actual national problem. When you have our leaders in Washington messing with monetary theories, taking out trillions of dollars in debt, and then, you know, mortgage-backed securities being purchased by the Fed, and the treasuries being bought by intermediary banks and then bought by the Fed, and all that money floods into the system, creating some hyperinflation, which is actually what we're experiencing, 18% a year at present. We can't fight that locally. There's maybe some small things we could do, you know, to make it easier for someone to get in, you know, licensing and whatnot. But inflation is the driving cause of our pain. It's nothing that locally we can do. What you can do is write your congressmen and your senators and your state representatives and state senators, you know, and force them to think about how things are going to push up the ladder to say we need to stop what's going on right.
Empty storefronts, so it is definitely a problem. You know, while we're talking about taxes, if I can get somebody in an empty storefront and I give them a tax break, that's 50% more than what I would have had if they weren't there. What I'm saying to you is, instead of building a new building, let's put them in some open space that we currently have right now and give them somewhat of tax relief. Now, I know that would have to run through legal, and there would probably be some implications, but what I'll tell you is that would be a good start to get the empty storefronts filled up, because there's nothing worse than looking at that driving up and down Route 4. In addition to that, I think to fill those storefronts, I'd like to see the county have an advocate, like almost at social services. When somebody shows up to open a business, that they walk them through the process from A to Z. The biggest problem that you hear about from citizens of this county are that when they show up to open a business, they get pointed here and here and there, and it's hard for them to get things done. I understand the system because I've been there for 33 years, but people coming in have no idea who they're supposed to see and when they're supposed to see them. Thank you.
Our Economic Development Department does a great job of being an ombudsman, walking people through the processes. Shopping centers, when they come down to the last few open storefronts, those storefronts are supply and demand. They do go up in price significantly. I'm not a fan of that. It doesn't make a lot of sense, because when somebody like a small business like Rita's or something like that, they want to come in and they have to have certain square footage pricing, they have a tough time finding those places. The Planning Commission approves, to the best of my knowledge, new strip malls, new office buildings, and stuff like that. There's multiple different departments that all have to be involved in this, from planning and zoning to water and sewer. We need to look at how many sewer taps each one of these places are going to have if they go into something new. We've got empty buildings right now in Dunkirk that are empty because, not of cost, they can't occupy them because there is no sewer or septic that's functional. So all of those things, infrastructure has to be involved prior to more growth. Thank you.
We do have a new economic development director, and I hope she has some new ideas on how to improve this problem here. Also, just like Commissioner Gadway said, just last week we have 2 salons that are looking for storefronts. They cannot occupy them because of the septic and the water usage. We need to work through the county and get these usage lowered to what they need to be in order to get these people in the units and get them to work. Thank you.
So like they previously mentioned, we have a great economic development department that will help you through the entire process if you contact them. Most of these places are private development, so we cannot control what goes in there. And the hard part, you can't give them a tax break because you'd have to give the whole shopping center a tax break. The permitting, is it easy? No, it's a long process. Nobody knows that better than me. But a lot of it is state mandated. So 90% of the calls I get is, can you help me with my permit? I say, okay, where's it at? It's in the health department. Okay, that's state. So you got to get past the health department. And like Mr. Cox said, with the water flows, that's all the health department. We have no control over that, unfortunately. But again, I think I have a great relationship to be able to call down there, and I've helped a lot of people. I've met people out on site and done whatever I can to help them develop their thing. We also have a great Chamber of Commerce that will advocate for you. If you get together with the Chamber of Commerce, they'll look out for you. Thank you.
Well, as a small business owner, and also okay, so a potential solution for this is what we can currently do is we can put in fiber optic cables now on those old facilities. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to bring in individuals who are going to want, they're going to want essentially a faster internet service. And that's not just those businesses that are going to want that, but that's also the children. So what the children want, they want faster internet so they can play their various games. They want to be able to do it. They want to be top dog when they're playing their game. So what's the way to do it? We improve our infrastructure by improving our fiber optic cables. Now, once we have those in place, now we could potentially look at federal funding to do this. So don't think, oh, immediately our taxes are going to increase. There's already funding existing for some of this. Some of it there is. And also, when it comes to these same infrastructure buildings that we can potentially build on, there's also FIFA money that currently had came down from over $6 million worth of damage from 2 years ago that is still being processed for projects right now.
This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. When I see building in Calvert County and empty storefronts, I don't like it. It confuses me. I don't understand why we're building, and we have empty storefronts. To that end, I have a meeting with Economic Development this Friday. I want to hear from the new director what ideas she has, how the process operates, what are the pitfalls in getting people into these buildings. So I'm working on understanding it, giving my ideas, and what she has in the pipeline for us as a county. Thank you.
I agree we need to work with economic development, the chamber, and also commercial realtors. I mean, they want to fill those spaces just as badly as anybody else does. I had the opportunity to go to Waldorf for some business last week, 2 weeks ago, and the number of unoccupied storefronts over there is absolutely tremendous. It's ridiculous, and that doesn't need to end up here. I think there's also an issue with, or I know there's an issue with our labor force, and that issue has affected the county as well for summer jobs. Building needs to meet the needs. I mean, if we have empty shopping centers, there again, I think when we're receiving plans for more shopping centers going into place, we need to consider that as well. I realize there's issues with sewer at some of these places, so they're limited to what they can do. But definitely, I think economic development can play a major role in fixing this problem.
It is economic development's job. My background is 30 years of working with national and international developers and builders and representing them. And I can tell you that what you can do is you get a couple of the commissioners in economic development, and you go to the CEO and the COO of the corporation that owns the shopping center. That's not the management company. That's not the marketing team. And you tell them, you can actually sit down with these people and say, what can we do to help you rent your space? And who can we talk to and work with you one-on-one to have the space opened up for these people? That's really the way it's been done. PG County does that a lot. Anne Arundel does it. We're a small little county. We don't have commercial developers down here. So what we need to do is we need to focus on filling in everything that you have, because that turns people off when they drive down and they buy houses and things like that. It looks like it's a vacancy. So that's how you do it. You fill in what you have. Okay? All right.
I disagree with economic development. I don't know why we have an economic development department and a planning and zoning department, because the planning and zoning is the evil empire. And I tell you that from personal experience, okay? My wife and I, when we started our hair salon, I asked the county if that was okay. And they said, sure, no problem, you're zoned farm. Go ahead, you're inherent to your farm zoning, awesome. That was a lie, okay? And I spent $38,000 in 20 months to start a small business in this county in my home. In my home, I didn't impact anybody. I used the existing septic, the existing water. It was crazy. Why? This happens all the time. There's a storefront right in Huntingtown next to 7-Eleven. The county won't let them open, or state health department won't let them open because they want them to replace the septic. They want them to put a little muffin shop in there. No, can't have it. Okay? Listen to me carefully. We bite off our nose to spite our face all the time in this county. All the time. And it has to stop. Somebody's telling them to do that. This can't be people operating on their own.
Time.
Thank you.
So as been mentioned by my fellow commissioners, we have an economic development department. I think we have a very good staff, and if a new business comes into town, they will help them work through the process. If you're redeveloping an old storefront, there are going to be issues in most cases. We just opened Batteries Plus in the Safeway Shopping Center in Prince Frederick. He had to rewire, had to replumb. It was an old storefront, and this was the first time it had changed hands in decades. He had no complaints. He said the process worked out the way it was supposed to. Staff helped him out, but there are going to be instances where if the septic fails, they've got to fix the septic. I mean, we can't just let them go in there. Do you want to go in there with faulty wiring if it's old and it needs to be replaced? So, there are going to be these obstacles that we have to help the businesses get through. It's just unfortunate that in some cases, those obstacles are too much to overcome. But, as we look around, last report I saw, our empty storefronts was, at what they say market should be. We weren't above what the market says empty store rate capacity is. So, and the other thing is that has affected storefronts is internet buying. My wife does it all the time. I know everybody in this room is doing internet buying. It affects those abilities to operate a storefront.
Okay. It appears that Calvert County is bidding county work, local tax dollars, out of the county and state for work to be completed in Calvert. What is your plan to keep required county work done by Calvert contractors?
So, the first year we took office, we contracted out the Prince Frederick Volunteer Fire Department, the new building that everybody's seen. It's a beautiful building. That contract went to a company in Charles County, a local Calvert County company, was under the bid on an $11 million project by $19,000. We couldn't believe it. The law says we have to give it to the low bidder. We had legislation introduced this past legislative session to give us the ability to work with the Chamber of Commerce and our businesses to come up what would be a good local preference that we could allow. We have fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers, so we can't just say every county business gets the bid just because. So we got to figure out what that differential is that we can allow those contracts, except those that aren't the low bid. That legislation didn't get out of committee. Now we know what the issues are. Next year, we've got to work through that to get enabling legislation so we can do that. Thank you.
So I want you to Google T-Bone and Heather and my name, Paul Harrison. I brought up the economic development issue a long time ago. I want to finish that thought. I told them that there's no pipeline for small business because they make having a home business so hard. Listen to that. And now we're realizing it 8 years later, okay? As far as the low bidder, sometimes low bidders can't do the work. I was a procurement manager for 7 years at Georgetown University. The low bidders also sometimes cost you money, okay? That's a problem too. So we need to look at the qualified, people that are qualified to build in the county and take the best bid. Sometimes that's the low bid. But it also needs to be a committee that makes that decision and not just a single source person. The procurement manager holds a lot of power, but it should be outsourced to a committee for larger projects. Not everything, but that would be my plan. Thank you.
When we build the apartments in the county, most of those apartments are built with labor forces coming from Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, some from North Carolina. I owned the Pier 1 store in Annapolis and built that, and it ended up that we had to hire people from North Carolina. They knew how to build the store. That's what they wanted when you built it. And it's the same thing with the apartments and all, not just our businesses, but our apartments when they go in. We don't have a say. You don't see the local trucks there. You see a few, maybe electrical or something, but they're framed out by people coming from other regions. And I think that I read the bill that was put in, that they asked for this year, and it was reasonable, but they need to make arrangements for us in this little tiny county to be able to have some negotiation power of how you allow the people who are building to be local people. Thank you.
I guess my experience with this would be buying police cars. Most every police car we bought the entire time I was at the sheriff's office came off of a state bid. There's certain dealerships that the state puts out a bid. I think most of our police cars actually came out of Rockville or area up there because that dealership, that's what they focused on, was the police market. So that's a state contract type of thing. That's not necessarily a low bid issue as much as it is for doing contracts. But I agree with Commissioner Hance, there's going to have to be a legislation change before you go outside of that low bid requirement.
I agree with Commissioner Hance as well. There are some things that are out of our control, but whenever possible, I think we should use local workforce. We have a son-in-law who's a commercial contractor, and he said he has always complained that the low bid isn't always the right bid. He comes in behind low bidders on many, many cases to clean up after them. So I think we have to get a better handle on this bidding process and the quality of the workforce that we're hiring, and try to keep it in county as much as possible.
I totally agree with the majority of the individuals here that when it comes to any type of work, if we can keep it in county, I think that's the best way to do it. Keep the money here, rotate it as much as possible. But unfortunately, it is my day job, and I am a contractor, and I'm used to seeing individuals who win contracts who win from the lowest bid. And unfortunately, you do sometimes get what you pay for. And I believe it's important that we look at all the options on the table, and we do try to shift everything towards the county to try to keep it in county. And that's going to also, like it was mentioned earlier, if we want to fill these locations, we want to fill up our empty locations. Not only do we have to build up on them, we also have to give them, we have to give them a reason to come down here. For example, there was the Comcast bid that happened that was just re-upped instead of them essentially taking that and putting it up for bid and giving us an option to have multiple individuals come down here and compete for our service.
Buddy answered that question, so I'm going to move on to something else. Patuxent Business Park sat vacant down in Lusby for however many years, however many boards. We've now sold half of those lots in there. County's received a AAA bond rating the last 3 years in a row under this board's leadership, saving the taxpayers millions of dollars. Comcast, anybody that doesn't have access to Comcast, everybody in this county will have access to Comcast by 2023 at no cost to the taxpayers. The golf course never made money. This year, it's making money for the first time. It's going to continue to make money. That's just a few things I wanted to get in there. And I wanted to thank our staff for being here tonight, because, of course, they don't get paid anything extra. And I want to thank the County Administrator, Mark Willis, and Director Vassallo for being here tonight and for all that they do for the county.
I will advocate for local businesses. You usually get what you pay for. For instance, our schools. We've built some schools, come back a year later to replace doors, septic systems, so you get what you pay for. Like Commissioner Hance said, some of this is out of our control. We need, a delegation to get to work for us. But I will make local business a priority because they're paying taxes here and they're hiring local here. Thank you.
On my second meeting as commissioner, I got to look at the paperwork, and I realized that there was a particular mowing job that somebody from out of state won for less than $1,500 difference, $1,500 on a $50,000 contract. I asked questions about it, and that's when I was taught what local preference was, which is what your topic is. There are a lot of positives to local preference. There are some drawbacks too, reciprocal agreements with other counties, things that I had no idea about before I was commissioner. I tried to actually say at that meeting, I'm simply asking questions because I'm trying to apply common sense. And I've tried too many times, and I learned that a lot of times common sense works, sometimes it doesn't because there's laws prohibiting it. I want to take this opportunity to thank my fellow commissioners specifically for helping support me in getting that legislation to the state where it did not come out, as Buddy mentioned, did not come out of session, but hopefully we'll get that fixed next time and get that local preference put into place. Thank you.
I want to give you an example. And going around and talking to businesses, when I first decided I was going to run, I was talking to a company called National Ink and Stitch. They make T-shirts. A fire department wanted to get T-shirts, and he lost the bid. And so I said, well, why did you lose the bid? Did you overbid? He said, yeah, my price was higher. He said, but Steve, what happened was, then shipping came in. My shipping included, I would drive to Prince Frederick and drop the shirts off. So when shipping was included, he lost the bid because of that. So we need to take more of a common sense approach and take a look at this. Of course, on a case-by-case basis. I heard somebody say we need to put a committee, and maybe in big encumbrances, that would be a good thing. But I can tell you, day to day, a lot of times, Calvert County needs to move quickly to get things. Also want to talk about Dominion Cove Point, now Berkshire. When they did their project there, they used local dump trucks from Calvert County, from St. Mary's County, and Charles County. That's a private business doing that. They were told they had to do that. If we can do it at a private business, we can do it here in Calvert County.
I would just say petition to change the law. How does a upstart, say, construction company get their foot in the door for a government contract when there's so many conditions that first must be met that large corporations easily meet? I would say change those definitions, and if there's questions about them, have them post a bond equal to the entire price of the bid. So if something does go wrong and they don't fulfill their obligations properly, or something messes up, well, then the bond is activated and the repairs can be done by someone else.
So I want to add to Commissioner McConkey, actually AAA bond rating has been 6 straight years, and that's a whole other conversation, but it's extremely impactful. We've been trying a local preference bill since I've been on the board. We receive monies from the federal and state governments. Once you do that, there are restrictions, there are rules that apply when you take that federal and state money. With the limited form of government that we have, Commissioner Hans, Commissioner Gadway are exactly right. We must send that bill to Annapolis. We are a small jurisdiction, and most of the time the larger jurisdictions don't want to see a local preference bill come because they are the bigger jurisdictions and they want to use their folks and send their people. But we push back on it every year. We state our case every year, and that's what we continue to keep doing. We understand, both boards I've been on, the most beneficial thing for us is to use local people. They're paying taxes here, they're using the services here, they gas up their vehicles here. We understand that. So that's why we have never stopped pushing back on Annapolis. But that's where that is. Thank you.
So we are 3 minutes before 8. I got 2 more questions. They basically are on what we've been talking about. Do you want to stay and listen to the next 2?
They look tired.
It's going to be on building and growth. That's not, it's, everything we got is building and growth. Yeah. You want to spend time with them? Or you got one more question?
Something sexier than building.
Do you have one more that's, that meets that criteria?
Some of these are so similar.
Mr. Moderator, will we be allowed to close the statement?
Yeah, we can do a minute real quick. Let's do. Okay, so now we got one without building in it. And we're going to do this 1 minute, and then we'll do closing statements on the way back. So what will you do about the drug problem? Require doctors to write prescriptions for smaller amounts of pills. This will cut down excess out there in the public, stop growth, and allocate funds toward drugs and trafficking.
Hard to do in a minute. We have the best sheriff's office in the state of Maryland. I defy anybody to say that we don't. They knew about heroin before we had a clue. First time I heard heroin, I said, what are you talking about? Heroin? That's something from the 70s. He said, oh no, it's been coming in, and we stop it on the road and we get it out of here. They've been on top of that since day one. When it goes down to our jail, people think, okay, they start working on programs down there. They start working on mental health. They start working on getting people off drugs. The health department gets involved with trying to work with these programs too. We have attacked this with everything we know how. We have brought specialists in, doctors in. Our dogs at first, they were used to marijuana. They had to all go through an opiate thing. At the time, there was a dog trainer that was retiring. He was so important, the sheriff's office said, you don't understand, there's other jurisdictions want this guy. We got to have him. We said, we got to have him, then we got to have him. There's nothing more important, the safety of our kids, and getting that garbage away from them. That was a driving piece when I started 8 years ago, when I would see needles on parking lots and stuff, and having, at that time, 2 kids in school. It's frightening. And I take, sorry,
No.
tough in a minute.
That's a complex, it's a nationwide problem. We're at the bottom of the change. Everything rolls downhill, as they say. What was it? That was about doctors and stuff. That's a prescription thing, regulated by the FDA, and we're at the bottom of the food chain. And our sheriff's department does the best that they can with getting these things off the street. And I know they've partnered with, all the other drug enforcement agencies, the state level and at the federal level, but until our State Department and other agencies such as the FBI stop the importation of all these illicit drugs in our country, it's something that we'll be constantly dealing with. So it's a constant battle, So, which also kind of goes towards the border issue, stopping the border influx, which is the main trafficking route of all our drugs. So the Sheriff's Department does an outstanding job. The deputies are out there every day getting these people, but I'm done. Oh, sorry. And the courts need to prosecute more and put them in jail.
Before we start, I didn't add a part to that, and I think I should. And one of the questions that came up is, why can the kids get away with it in school? Because nobody's allowed to go in and take care of it.
Really?
State law. Yeah.
That's a fact.
So I'm going to start with this. On the school part, it's state law. So this is a state level issue that it needs to be addressed at the state level. The drug problem is a mental health issue more than anything else. We have been arresting people since people could be arrested, and it hasn't made any difference on the drug problem in this county. Thank you. As far as prescription goes, it's federal law. That's what needs to be changed. They need to change federal law to keep doctors from over-prescribing. We all know people go to the doctors and they're getting 120 pills for a toothache. So that needs to cut out. We see it every day. And don't think that police officers don't see the same pill bottles from the same doctors, because we do. We turn it in and an investigation is started. Lastly, I told you I was a member of the Special Operations Team. I'm the commander. I also run a program called SOLID. The police officers, instead of kicking doors in, what we said was, how can we help with this epidemic? We did this years ago. We go in after somebody ODs and teach the families how to use Narcan so that they can keep their loved ones alive. Thank you.
It's going to get old by the time you get to the end of the line, but I don't think it will get old. The Sheriff's Department does an amazing job in this county, and my hat is off to them, and I applaud them for it. We have some of the lowest rates in the state because of a lot of their hard work. I will also give credit to Dr. Polsky at the Health Department. He has done a very good job, and the corrections facility making sure that the recidivism, that's my 25-cent word of the day, is good. In my many years at Huntingtown Fire Department, I only dealt with a few overdoses. That was many, many years ago. Every one is tragic. We have to do something. We have to band together community, and we have to take all approaches possible on it. I think we're really close to being there to get the job done right.
Crime is down, and my hat goes off to the Sheriff's Office. They've done a great job. We need a safe community. We need safe schools with resource officers. We must support good programs like the Crisis Intervention Center. They do a wonderful job with our local sheriff's office. Thank you.
When I first got on the school board, Sheriff Evans came to me and he said, Kelly, we can't, the Board of Ed won't let the dogs sweep the schools. I got our Board of Ed to allow the dogs to come in, sweep the parking lots, sweep the schools, and they didn't find a whole lot. It was the kids mostly doing it on the bus, after school, and they had a hard time catching people. But they did sweep the lockers while they were in classrooms to not disrupt the kids. One of the things we had a problem with was when the police officers went into the schools, there was no communication in the schools. The phones didn't work, the radios didn't work. We just put in a new communication system tower, Motorola, and they no longer have that problem. Now our police officer can go in and communicate. We've also put in safety measures. We've invested money in the schools with camera systems that in the hallways, at the doorways, any way we can catch anything that's going on. It helps a lot. I've constantly worked with Deputy McDowell and Mike Evans. They tell me their needs. They're the professionals. I have to believe in what they tell me, and I provide them what I can. I also work with the state's attorney in funding whatever they need. Thank you.
I believe out of all of us up here, Steve Jones is probably the most qualified to comment towards this. But I've also worked with the Department of Justice in the past, and what I've noticed working basically at the top down is that it all comes from the top down. So essentially what we need to do when it comes to situations like this, we need to look at funding. So we need to have enough folks that are essentially being recruited for our sheriff's office or for our deputies. And up until recently, that was a big hot topic item. And personally, if I become your commissioner, I'm not going to wait until an election cycle to vote on making that a priority for our county, making sure our people are paid correctly so we can have enough sheriff's deputies to ensure that we're going to essentially be nipping this issue. And that's my take on that.
My hat's off to our Sheriff's Department. I've lived here 47 years, and I have felt very, very safe. I have felt that our officers have been accessible. I also feel we need school resource officers in all of our schools. I think that is paramount. The relationships that children can develop with these individuals can really be very helpful to them in their home life. Let's say they come from a family where there's not a father in the house or there's problems within the family. To have adult males or females within the school system as school resource officers, I think is invaluable. With growth comes problems. We're growing. We see in our county paper so many drug arrests. I heard from one sheriff's deputy that going down Route 260, they get so many people that they stop who have weapons in their cars and have drugs in their cars. And they're going down to Rod and Reel, and they're not from this county. So growth is going to bring us these problems.
Our sheriff's office does do an outstanding job. The patrol deputies are making countless arrests for anything from pills to marijuana to heroin to PCP. It seems like as soon as they complete that arrest, they go back out, they make another traffic stop. It's a constant cycle, unfortunately. The narcotics officers, they're assigned to try to catch the dealers that are dealing these pills, or whatever other illegal drug it is that they're dealing. And these cases take a long time. To obtain a search warrant, it's not something that happens overnight. It's a tough job for them, it really is. Once they go in, once they execute that search warrant, they make those arrests, it seems like 2 or 3 other people go in and take their place while they're in jail. It's a very frustrating, continuous cycle. I can tell you this, I had several DARE officers work for me. DARE was a great program in our schools. Mm-hmm. They took DARE out of the schools. The SROs do a good job in the schools, but those kids that go up to those SROs and that DARE officers still today, and thank them for being a part of their life. It's very significant. Those were 2 great programs that I think actually reached those kids early on and could make a difference, but they're no longer there. We have deputies assigned to the HIDA task force at a federal level trying to work with the feds to battle our pill problem as well, so.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. You may not like this. The kids are addicted, and addiction kills a family. And the parents and the family unit needs to show a little bit of tough love on these kids, and they need to get them back into control. I did believe in the DARE program. I knew our church worked with some of those folks and everything, and DARE helped, and now you can't even find somebody who has the ability to stand up to these youngsters and say to them, look, this is not going to happen. You need help, and you're going to get help. And that's where the tough love comes in. You have to let these kids know that you're not going to tolerate this. And it's hard on some of the parents. The parents are, they don't know how to handle this. That's why they need a police officer, somebody in a uniform. It would be wonderful if you could have a program in the county where these kids could go and talk to somebody and get them on the straightest path they can be on at the time. Thanks.
So the war on drugs started under Reagan. Anybody here around when Reagan was around? So if there's a financial incentive, the drugs are going to come here. That's the tough part. I started my war on drugs at home with my kids and telling them that it's going to hurt their life. It's going to hurt the family. Okay, but we also need to make it easier for families in this county, so that two parents may not always have to work, keeping their tax burden low, helping them when they want to build a shed or a garage or something. Jeez, we make it so tough. And this is a hard county to live in, let alone raise a family. I've raised I have 3 native Calvert Countyans in my home. And you know what? They're not addicted to drugs. As a scout leader, I was in scouts for 9 years. That was wholesome. That was awesome, right? They got rid of the DARE program in the school system because we let them. Because we didn't fight. Where's the county attorney? It's not just his fault, but who's tasking that guy to fight for this, right? Thank you.
So I can only echo what's already been said. In Calvert County, we're pretty fortunate to have a sheriff's office, a health department, a hospital, and a community resources department that has programs to help. But it's still a nationwide problem that we all are a part of. And it starts at home, it starts in the schools, but there are only so many tools we have available to us. A lot of those tools have been taken away. We've seen more jumpers off the bridge in the last 6 months than we've ever seen. And that's pandemic has created this depression and these mental issues, and sometimes you just don't see those until it's too late when those people jump off that bridge. And I can't imagine that. I just can't envision that I want to give up my life. But, we're doing the best we can with the tools that we have, and all we can do is look for more tools and do as much outreach as possible to help those that need help.
And so we're at the end now, so Buddy, we'll start with you and do a closing statement, another minute.
So, 4 years ago, I got into this because I was concerned about the path the county was on, because of my grandchildren. My life, I'm getting near the end of my life, and I've had a great life here in Calvert County. I want to see some of Calvert County left that I knew for my grandchildren. And what I have learned in this process is it's a lot easier to be a candidate than it is to be an incumbent. Because once you sit in that chair and you figure out what the rules are and what you can do, what you can't do, what the needs are, what the wants are, and what the resources you have, it's a whole new world. And ladies and gentlemen, I lose sleep at night over this budget because not many things keep me awake at night, but this budget keeps me awake because it's your tax dollars that I'm trying to protect. I'm trying to provide the services to the citizens and make sure our schools have everything they need. It's not easy, but I'm here for my grandchildren, and I would appreciate your vote in July. Thank you.
I appreciate what Commissioner Hans said. There's probably different rules, but I don't agree with the rules. So I like to advocate to change them. And I keep bringing up the county attorney because I didn't see any commissioners during the COVID lockdown fight against the lockdown or fight against the masks. Now, I'm not saying you guys, it's good or bad. Nobody did. There were very few people across the country that fought it because everybody was scared to death. The propaganda machine was in full effect, and people were dying. My own father died March 29th from COVID. Diagnosed with COVID. He was a double organ transplant recipient. That's why he died, because he had organ failure. but he also had COVID. Okay, so I know what COVID is firsthand. But I got to tell you, 100,000 people died of overdoses over COVID too. We've caused irreparable harm to a generation of kids because we locked them down for a year and a half and nobody fought for them. Nobody. That's tough, okay? There's money to be spent. There's things to be challenged. One last thing I'll say before my time's up. The commissioner's charge is the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. It's not what's on the website. It's bigger than that. And we are the executive and the legislature of this county. And we need to start acting like it. Thank you.
The organizational chart for the county, somebody said to me one time, the county, the master plan, the comp plan, that's the BOCC's plan. I said, no, it's the citizens plan. No. It is the citizens plan. The citizens are on top. And we elect the Board of County Commissioners to do the very best job for us. We trust them. We believe what they say when they run for office. We acknowledge that there are things that go wrong, but yet they need a plan. If something is off kilter, they need the plan, and they have to be far-reaching and see and moderate what is the right plan for us in this county. We're the smallest county in Maryland, the 6th smallest county in the United States. We have the Chesapeake Bay here. The Chesapeake Bay could feed the world population in fish. Right. And not only that, but the river is being harmed also. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't hear it right.
As I started out, I've lived on my family farm my entire life. I've also worked on the water, so I care about the water and the resources it provides to the county as well. I mean, it's very important for our economy, from the sport fishermen to the commercial crabber to whoever. I mean, you think about how many different areas are affected by somebody going out on their boat fishing for a weekend. You've got a boat dealership, you've got the gas guy, you've got the person they're getting their ice from, you've got tackle shops, you've got all these small businesses that are affected by us continuing to protect our resources, whether it be in the Chesapeake Bay or the Patuxent River. That's one of my main focus points. I care about our schools. Again, like I said, we need to try to forge that relationship with the Board of Education to make sure we can improve things there, and also care about smart growth, planned growth. We have to evaluate our infrastructure before we continue to grow in these certain areas. And public safety needs to be at the forefront. We live in the safest county in the state of Maryland for a reason. So, thank you.
We raised our children in Calvert County, and I always felt that Calvert County was the jewel of Maryland. And over the years, we have seen our jewels start to tarnish with high-density building, an overabundance of traffic, with an infrastructure that cannot accommodate what we are doing, little regard for our watermen and our fishermen, a polluted Chesapeake Bay, a polluted Patuxent River, and critical race theory being taught to our children under the guise of equity. We have got to take our county back. We have got to get our commissioners to work, to listen to what we want as Calvert Countyans, and to move forward with what we feel is best for our county. And from what I have seen, we don't want all of this growth. We don't want all of this traffic, but we need a strategic plan to move forward, and I'm asking for a pause until we figure out our budget and what we want to do to move forward in this county. Thank you.
So I've spoke to over 2,000 constituents of Calvert County, and what I've been pushing are 3 pillars: safety, salary, and service. These are the 3 things I promised to bring if I'm voted commissioner. Safety, what I'm going to do right now, there's a lot of money, a lot of funds that we are not utilizing that is coming down from the Fed right now. An example that I mentioned earlier was FIFA funds. that we are getting. This is money for something that happened 2 years ago, and we have infrastructure that is currently in our county that desperately needs fixed. They need to be fixed, they need to be repaired. These are projects that need to be addressed. So what I suggest we do is we take a proactive action and we do something about this to make our county safer. We need to make it safer. When there's a flood in North Beach, the fire department needs to be able to go and get to individuals. The fact that they can't go anywhere in the middle of a storm is absolutely ridiculous, and this is because of infrastructure, and that is the commissioner's job, and I will do something about it if I'm voted commissioner. Thank you.
My priorities will be to continue to keep this community safe, invest in infrastructure, keep your taxes low, invest in your kids' education, and build amenities for our kids and adults. We're getting our first turf field down in Lusby, thanks to Dominion, no taxpayer money. Thanks to Senator Miller, we have a nice new Ward Farm Park that we're investing in. I don't know if anybody's been there, but it's a wonderful place, and I'm committed to building a community center in Prince Frederick. We got many grants for small businesses during COVID. I had the honor of being president of the board during that time. It was a very tough time, a lot of tough decisions, but our staff did an incredible job working endless hours to protect the community and help our small businesses. And as your commissioner, if you re-elect me, I will continue to keep my promises, not raise your taxes, and we have an approved budget. We're fine. We're going to be fine, and we're going to continue to be fine. There is no scare tactics coming from me. I tell it like it is. Everybody knows that about me. Thank you.
All these topics we talk about tonight are dear and to each and everybody's heart here, but it must start with a good conversation to listen, learn, and respond. There are solutions to each and every one of these problems. I want to be part of that. As a commissioner, I will work for each and every citizen in Calvert County. I will spend your money like mine. Public safety with mental health is a high priority. Also our schools, our children. Big priority with me if elected commissioner. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Calvert County Republican Central Committee and Mr. McQueen for moderating this event tonight. I've learned a lot, and I hope everybody else has as well. I'd like to specifically thank Calvert Broadcast for coming down here. You can see the video on YouTube when you go there. Please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell notification for the bell icon for notifications when new videos are uploaded. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so we can get free closed captioning. Common sense spending. And employees are the number one thing that I need to look at in this county, that we should look at. Employees counts as county government employees, sheriff's department employees, corrections employees, school teachers, educators, and school staff. If we don't have good employees, we don't have anything. We need to concentrate, all of us need to concentrate on the Board of Education elections. I'm focused on limiting high-density residential development. And in closing, I humbly ask for your vote in July. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a public servant. I come from a blue-collar family. I don't own any large tracts of land. I don't have any business interests. But what I do have is a love for my county and the love for the people in it. And I will do everything that I can from a commissioner's seat to fight as hard for you as I have from the sheriff's office seat. You see, there comes a time when you have to hang up your badge and sit behind a desk, and that's where my time is at right now. You know, I've heard a lot of problems that's going on with Calvert County. But what I say to you is, among those problems, there's solutions. And this is one of the finest places I've ever been in my life, and we're all blessed to be a part of it. I thank all of you for your support. I ask for your support for District 1 Commissioner. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been down this road a couple times, maybe you all recall. I'm just an old combat vet, and I just can't consonant certain things that have been going on. There's an old saying, the children are our future, but that's a falsehood. We, the adults in this room, are our children's future by our deeds and omissions. If we don't change those and make this the foundations for them, then they won't be able to succeed and have a free life as we do. I've lost my train of thought again.
I'll take notes.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anyway, tick-tock. I lost it. Anyway, listen, I would appreciate your vote. Come July, I believe it is. Vote early, vote often. The Democrats do.
There you go. Well done, sir.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank the Central Committee and everyone who came out tonight to make this possible. I've had the privilege of being your commissioner for 2 terms. And with that experience, I've seen the good times, seen the bad times. But I'll make you this promise. I will stand up for the parents that want to have a say in their children in school and in their way of life. And I will not stand by and let this county be paved over top of. We can't afford it, and it will destroy the way of life that we've become accustomed to. And that will be my main 2 focuses coming in. I have lots of budget experience. I understand the problems that are coming. I was here when we had no money. I was here when the Dominion check came here. I've seen both sides of it. I'm very comfortable going forward, and I would ask for your vote in July. Thank you very much.
Here, here. So I want to thank all the citizens and everybody for coming out. Thank you for making this a good forum. The next one coming up, you'll see information coming up. We're going to have sheriffs here in June 8th, okay? And then from there, we're moving the forums north to the other parts of the county. So thank you candidates, thank you commissioners, appreciate it, and the media group.